The day started off like any other boring lectures, restless students counting down the minutes until lunch, the low hum of chatter filling the classroom. Nothing felt out of the ordinary. Not until the intercom came to life with a burst of static. "This is an intruder alert. I repeat, there is an intruder in the building. Secure your doors immediately." Mr. Haynes froze mid-sentence. The color drained from his face as he rushed to lock the door and kill the lights. The room fell into darkness, the air instantly heavier. We could hear faint noises echoing down the hallway, distant, muffled, but wrong. "Phones silent," he whispered. "No talking." The class crouched behind his desk. The sound of our breathing filled the room, quick and uneven. We'd had intruder drills before, but this wasn't one of them. This was different. The announcement, the tone, it felt too real. Mr. Haynes kept glancing toward the door, like he expected it to move. Riley, the girl sitting next to me, gripped my sleeve so tight her nails dug into my skin. "What's happening?" she mouthed. I didn't know, but then we heard it. Footsteps. Not the quick, confident pace of a teacher. These were slow. Each one seemed to drag, echoing closer and closer, until they stopped right outside our door. The handle turned. Mr. Haynes lifted a finger to his lips, his other hand gripping a metal ruler like it might actually protect us. The door was locked, but the sound of that handle twisting controlled, patient, made my blood run cold. Then came 3 knocks. Slow. Even. Riley whimpered. Someone else stifled a sob. The handle went still, but whoever was out there didn't move. It felt like they were listening, breathing just inches away on the other side of the wood. Then the footsteps started again, dragging farther down the hallway. Minutes stretched into forever. Somewhere in the distance, we heard faint whispers, doors creaking. Then the intercom crackled again. "Do not open the doors for anyone." But it wasn't the principal's voice. It was hoarse, raspy, distorted. The lights flickered, and for a heartbeat, I saw it, a warped shadow at the far end of the hall. A door creaked open. Someone hadn't listened. A scream ripped through the building. Riley buried her face against my arm, trembling. I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. Then came the footsteps again, faster this time, racing back toward us. A sudden bang hit our door so hard it rattled the glass. The class jumped as one. Another hit followed. Harder. Mr. Haynes pressed his shoulder against the door and motioned for the bigger boys to help. Whatever was out there slammed into it again and again. The floor trembled beneath us. Then, silence. For a few seconds, nothing. Then came a low, broken laugh, metallic and unnatural. It echoed down the hallway, fading slowly into the dark. We stayed frozen in place. My legs went numb, my chest ached. Every sound in the building became something to fear. Then the fire alarm erupted, shrieking through the halls. Half the class flinched, a few cried out. Mr. Haynes yelled, "Don't move! Stay down!" His voice cracked. He knew it was a trick. The banging returned, one door after another, testing them. 1, 2, 3. Our turn was next. I dug my nails into the floor, my heart hammering. The noise stopped outside the room beside ours. Then came the screaming, raw, panicked, and real. And then a gunshot. The silence that followed was unbearable. When the sirens finally came 15 minutes later, it felt like days had passed. Red and blue lights flashed through the blinds. The real principal's voice trembled through the intercom. "Police are on site. Stay where you are." When officers broke through our door, they shouted commands, rifles raised. I saw the hallway, then blood smeared along the lockers, a trail leading to the east wing, and a body bag. No one ever said who or what it was. Some said a masked intruder, others swore it wasn't human. But when I looked back at our classroom door, I saw them 3 deep scratches carved into the wood, just below the handle. 3 knocks, 3 marks, and they never found anyone. When the final bell rang, the school finally exhaled. Laughter and footsteps faded as everyone rushed out into the summer air, everyone except me. I'd promised my English teacher I'd return a few books to the library. It should have been quick. The halls were nearly empty, my footsteps echoing too loudly in the silence. When I opened the library door, the air felt heavy, the lights dim and flickering. I set the books down, then froze. Someone was sitting at the far table, perfectly still. Someone was sitting at one of the tables near the windows. They didn't move. Their back was to me, head bowed, like they were staring into their lap. For a second, I thought maybe it was just another student, waiting for a ride. "Hey," I called softly. "Library's closing soon." No response. The silence stretched, thick and wrong. No response. I stepped closer, the carpet muffling my footsteps. My chest tightened when I realized I didn't recognize the clothes. They were old-fashioned, like something from decades ago. A pale hand rested on the table, the skin so white it almost glowed under the flickering light. I stopped just a few feet away. "You okay?" I asked. The head lifted slowly, too slowly. When the face turned toward me, my stomach dropped. There were no eyes, just hollow sockets, dark and empty, as if something had scooped them clean. The mouth stretched into an unnatural smile, too wide, too forced. I stumbled backward, knocking a chair over. The figure stood, and the sound it made when it moved wasn't footsteps. It was more like the dragging of something heavy across the floor. I bolted for the door, but when I reached it, the knob wouldn't turn. I yanked, twisted, slammed my shoulder against it, but it was locked. Behind me, the dragging sound grew louder. I darted between the bookshelves, weaving through the narrow aisles. My heart pounded in my ears as I tried to stay ahead of it. But no matter how fast I moved, the dragging sound followed me, steady and unhurried. Like it knew I couldn't escape, I pressed myself against the back wall of the history section, trying to steady my breathing. That's when I noticed something carved into the wooden shelf beside me. "You can't leave on the last day." Before I could even process the words, a hand shot through the gap in the books and clamped onto my shoulder. The grip was ice cold, the nails digging deep into my skin. I screamed and shoved myself free, knocking books to the ground as I ran. I don't remember how I got out, only the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears and the crash of the library doors as I tore through them. 1 second I was inside. The next I was stumbling into the hallway, my palms burning where I'd caught myself on the floor. This time, the doors weren't locked. The hallway lights flickered in rapid bursts, throwing my shadow ahead of me as I ran. I didn't dare look back. All I could think about was reaching the front doors, getting outside, away from whatever was still inside that room. When I shoved the doors open, sunlight hit me like a slap. I collapsed onto the steps, gulping air, my whole body shaking. Around me, students were still celebrating, laughing, shouting, spraying each other with water. None of them saw the blood smeared across my arm or the deep scratches burning on my shoulder. I looked back once. The library windows were calm, the room beyond perfectly still, as if nothing had happened. I never told anyone about that afternoon. It's easier to pretend it was just exhaustion or my mind playing tricks after exams. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up with that same ache, pulsing beneath my skin, right where that cold hand grabbed me. And every year, when the final bell rings and summer begins, I make sure I'm nowhere near a school, because I know, somehow, it's still there, waiting for someone else to stay behind. The afternoon felt strangely tense, the air thick, like something was about to happen. I was in my last class, waiting to leave for band practice, when the intercom crackled. All students and staff, this is a lockdown. This is not a drill. My teacher locked the door and killed the lights. The room went silent. Then my phone buzzed a news alert. Someone had posted on Snapchat, cleaning their guns with a chilling caption. And the next line made my stomach drop. A bus from another school in our district had been shot at. My dad was there. I texted him, "Are you okay?" No reply. The minutes stretched into an hour. Every sound outside, every shuffle of footsteps, every click of a door made me flinch. It didn't matter that they said nothing. In that silence, your mind fills in the gaps. You start to imagine the sound of gunfire, footsteps coming down the hall, someone testing the handle of the door you're hiding behind. When the intercom finally came back on, the principal's voice was too steady, too rehearsed. Students, scheduled to go to their base schools, will now board the buses. I blinked. What? The threat was at the base school. Why in hell would they send us there? But the teachers herded us down the hallway anyway. Their nervous smiles stretched thin like plastic wrap over panic. The hallway felt wrong. Too quiet. Too empty. I stepped onto the bus and pressed my forehead against the cold glass. Outside, the world looked normal. That's the worst part about days like that. How normal everything looks while you're convinced something is about to explode. The ride felt endless. Every turn felt like it could be our last. I kept checking my phone, desperate for a message from my dad. Nothing. When we arrived at the base school, everything looked dead. The parking lot was empty, except for a few police cars parked crookedly near the entrance. The officers stood outside like shadows, hands on their belts, eyes scanning everything. We were shuffled into the gym. Lockdown again. Only this time, we were in the very place someone had threatened to shoot up. They turned off the lights, and the gym transformed into a cavern of echoes and shadows. The bleachers creaked under the weight of students, shifting nervously. Someone whispered, "Why are we even here?" But no one answered. The sound of the gym door locking echoed like a gunshot. My breathing grew shallow. My dad could be anywhere in the building. If something happened, I wouldn't even know where he was. I imagined the threat, whoever they were, walking through the same hallways I'd spent years in, weapon in hand, deciding where to begin. The thought crawled under my skin and dug in deep. Then came the worst sound of all. Nothing. No announcements, no updates. Just us. Sitting in the dark. A girl started crying softly beside me. Another whispered that someone saw movement outside the gym doors. Rumors spread like wildfire in the dark. Someone swore they heard footsteps in the hallway. Nobody knew what was real anymore. When the lights finally flicked on an hour later, lockdown lifted. The teacher said like it was nothing. Just like that. As if the terror of the last few hours had been a brief inconvenience. They herded us out like sheep who never needed answers. I found my dad in his classroom later, pale and exhausted. He'd been in lockdown too, crouched behind his desk with his students. He hadn't even known if I made it to the school safely. The system that was supposed to protect us had failed in every way. But the story didn't end there. As buses were being loaded to take everyone home, someone realized a special ed student was missing. They had been lost during the chaos, slipped through the cracks. While everyone was panicking, nobody noticed until the end. A sick chill went down my spine when I heard it. If someone with a gun had walked through those halls, that student would have been the easiest target. Forgotten. Alone. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the silence pressing down like a weight. The official story would never match what it felt like inside those locked rooms. They'd call it a precautionary lockdown. They'd talk about ensuring safety. But in reality, it felt like we were nothing more than sitting ducks. Sometimes, even now, I can still hear the gym door locking in my head. I can still see the flickering lights and feel that sick, heavy dread pooling in my stomach. The threat was real. The fear was real. And the silence from the people in charge made it worse. And the worst part? They never caught the person who made that threat.